Hey, it's Fit Gear Hunter. Up for review today is the Garmin Enduro, the new ultra marathon, ultra enduring, ultra long battery life watch from Garmin. And we're going to look at it not from the perspective of a runner or a biker or triathlon. We're going to look at it from the perspective of CrossFit training and high intensity interval training. Everything on this channel, everything on fitgearhunter.com is focused on aspects or testing and tracking devices for the purpose of CrossFit training and high intensity interval training and things that would benefit that sort of specific focused sport. So if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing for more. I've got an upcoming review for the Polar Verity Sense, the armband optical heart rate tracker compared to the OH1 Plus and just as a standalone device. And even better than that, we have the Whoop on its way to the house tomorrow. I'm going to test the Whoop in a new test. My old video is quite embarrassing when I tested the 3.0 and the 2.0 in past times. So it's all been tested. We're going to retest it to really try to evaluate, is it appropriate to be the official wearable of CrossFit? How does it hold up? We're going to test it specifically in the open workouts and across a number of other workouts as well. But we're going to test it compared to Garmin's platform with a chest strap, Polar's platform with a chest strap, because the Whoop band doesn't connect to a chest strap. You're just left to the optical heart rate sensor or to put up on a bicep band. So we're going to do all sorts of analytical testing there. So what are we going to look at with the Garmin Enduro? Now, everything here is for tracking, comparing to CrossFit workouts. So we're going to look at the Enduro from a CrossFit tracking type of standpoint. So we're not going to get into some of the basics and the specs that might benefit or value to ultra marathoners or triathlon people or all of those types of reviews. There's a lot of websites, a lot of reviews for that types of thing. We're going to specifically look at all of the aspects when it relates to CrossFit training. So we're going to look at a hands-on, the watch up close, talk about some of the specs. We might not catch all the specs that somehow apply to some of those other sports. We're going to look at it from what would benefit for CrossFit training or high intensity interval training. We're going to look at the workout aspects, both the analytics on the watch itself while you're working out, as well as the specs and details and training load and long-term aspects of the workout analysis in the app itself as it relates to CrossFit training. And then we're going to look at the wellness and health aspects and how the recovery recommendations, the sleep, and some of those body battery specifics help you to know if you're prepared and ready for the next level of training and to track and monitor your training history. So with that, let's dive into the watch and come back together. Okay, so looking at the watch itself, it is 51 millimeters across. It is 15.6 millimeters deep. We had our initial review where I showed some of those specs. It does have, the sort of plastic sort of mid coating as well as the titanium back. There's your elevate heart rate sensor with your pulse ox as well as the optical heart rate tracking, your plug-in, obviously. It is the same sort of design and layout of the 6X, so you're not going to see any differences there. It is a titanium. This is the titanium version. It has a diamond-like coating, so the diamond-like coating is going to provide extra protection. If you looked at the original Fenix 6 that had diamond-like coating or did not have diamond-like coating, it got wear a lot more easily. So when you look at just the basic functions, you can see all of the basic widgets that you would find on all of the main Fenix 6. It is like a duplicate of a Fenix 6, just without maps, Wi-Fi, and music, as we'll talk about in a minute. But you'll notice the lag time. Look, I had pushed the button 3 times. So that's one of the things that I'm noticing about the processor speed is when it is just sort of sitting still, when you go to track things, if you push, at some point will catch up or it won't be quite quick enough to stay with your button presses. So it catches up eventually, but when the watch has been sitting still for a little bit, you can see the processor is a little bit slower. The other thing that I've noticed is I took a light meter to it, and it is about 25% dimmer than the Fenix 6X. So that Fenix 6X traditionally is just putting out about 25% more light. So if you're used to a 20% brightness on the 6X, which is the standard out of the box brightness, it's going to feel like you're sitting at a 5% or 10% brightness on this. So I have mine cranked up a little bit more, but when I do the full review of the 6X Titanium Solar versus this Enduro, we'll look at a laundry list of the specs. It weighs about the same. It's like 2 grams lighter on just the casing, and then obviously lighter with the band. We'll look at the band in a second. All right, so just looking at the band specifically, you know, it's got these two clasps. You know, there was a question as to whether they're going to stay on. As soon as you put this on, as long as it's settled in to the watch for any period of time, it is not coming off. It is not flicking off. You're not having any issues. You know, other people, because of the size of your wrist, you might have to overlap it, meaning this strap comes here and this one goes over top. But I'm finding the Velcro to be considerably easy. And one thing I will say is if you're using it and you have it loosened up, the easiest way to put the actual thing on, because if you try to free float and do it, you're trying to hold it with one hand, pull one little band, just press it down. And the best way it works actually press into your leg, but I'll show it here for simplicity. So you push one little sleeve in and then you buckle the other, but pushing the watch down into something is the easiest way to get it on and off. It doesn't have a problem. It will absorb water. You will get it on your suit, so you know you will have some issues if you're wearing a long sleeve shirt, but overall the band has been really great. It just sort of straps right over. But that's just the overall specs. I do think overall it's got a solid size to it. It's got a strong feel to it. It's got, you know, you can bang it up. I haven't seen any nicks or, you know, scratches on it in the time that I've been testing it for about 2.5 weeks. It does not feel super heavy because the casing itself is 52 grams in weight, and the total casing for the watch itself is 61 grams. You know, it feels light enough. It feels light enough even with a 50 millimeter, so a 51 millimeter diameter across. So I'm liking the design so far overall. I like the build quality and the strength overall, so it's been working well there. Let's come back together. So what do I think overall about the design and quality? I love the build quality. I love the solid size and feel to it. I love the look of it, and I love the weight of it. Obviously, it is a bigger watch. The watch face is 1 inches in diameter, and so the overall size at 51 millimeters is bigger than a lot of manufacturers out there, or a lot of the others on the market. But since it's coming in at such a light weight, coming in at 61 grams, and the weight of the watch itself at 52 grams, it doesn't feel overly cumbersome. So what you're actually getting is extra screen landscape for not a lot of weight, you know, bearing you down. So it doesn't feel like it's overly cumbersome from a weight perspective. Now it is bigger, so you will have a tendency maybe to push it up against, bang it against a barbell or a rack. You might, you know, feel the overall size on your wrist. So, but the diamond-like coating is going to help protect it from significant scratches and issues. You can put a glass protector on the solar glass if you want to protect it. And if you're wearing wrist straps or, you know, hand wraps, you obviously can loosen it up. The band makes it really comfortable. The band itself I like a lot because you can just adjust it to your perfect fit. Maybe you want it a little bit looser throughout the day. Maybe you want it a little bit tighter in a workout. It's easy. You can do it exactly how you want it. And because the band is so adjustable, you can open it up, slide it up your wrist, and then it's not going to get into the way with wrist straps or hand straps. So everything works great there, but because it is a little bit bigger, you get that extra screen space. So 1.4-inch screen, you can see all of the primary smartwatch functions, and Garmin as a smartwatch is obviously no Apple Watch, but compared to Coros and Suunto and Polar, all the primary manufacturers out there, it is the best functioning smartwatch design that I have seen on a sports watch. So you can see the weather in big pretty colors, you can sunrise, a compass, all of that comes through really clearly. All your notifications from your phone come through clearly. They have, you know, emojis that, you know, they are continually updating their platform, so you get a nice, beautiful, big screen, which we'll talk about even in the workout section, some of the benefits of the screen there. But think about it, 1.4 inches. All the other manufacturers primarily are 1.2 inches. So it's number 1.3, but a lot of them are 1.2. So the Vertix, the Apex Pro, the Polar Vantage V2, you know, they're all smaller screens, so they have less space to be able to visibly see what's happening. And then let me speak to the screen quality, because there's been a lot of issues with Garmin watches coming out with worse colorization, the blacks being sort of a bluish gray or, you know, washed out blacks you might have heard. I feel like the quality of this is up at the top. I don't feel like it's as crisp as the Phoenix 6 titanium version, which is the crispest blacks in colorization that I've seen on any Phoenix watch, but it is a far cry from some of the ones that are, you know, have sort of a bluish washed out background. So it's excellent there. And yes, it is 25% dimmer. So it is 25% dimmer than the 6X titanium solar or the 6X family of watches. So it is dimmer, but still at full brightness, it's over 2 times brighter than the Coros Vertex, the Coros Apex Pro, the Suunto 9, the Polar Vantage V2. So it's considerably brighter than all the competition, even at a dimmer setting or a dimmer brightness than some of its sort of similar parts. So let's talk about the battery. The battery itself has been rated at 65 days of smartwatch mode if you're getting a lot of light, 50 days just in smartwatch mode by itself, 80 hours of GPS if you're getting reasonable sunlight, and 70 hours just out of the box. Now, I have the settings differently, and I wear a suit every day for work. So because I wear a suit every day for work, and let me just mention the band thing, it doesn't absorb like crazy amounts of water, but you will notice it if you wear a suit, if you have a wrist, something around there. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. It's gone pretty quickly, so it's not like it's pouring out large amounts of water. But I wear a suit every day to work, so I don't get a lot of sun on my wrist throughout the day. So I have the setting, and I like a bright backlight. So my settings, I set the backlight to 80% brightness because I was always accustomed to 60% brightness on the Fenix 6 that I've been used to wearing. And so that correlates directly because of the lack of brightness on the Enduro. 80% brightness, pulse ox on for tracking during sleep, about 1 hour of workout every day, and I have the data recording rate to every second rather than smart recording. And I got 16 days. So that's a big difference from everything else, but with all those extra features added on, to get 16 days is still better than I've seen. So I think when I tested the Vertex, I technically got 12 or 14 days, so it still did better than that. But again, it didn't capture a lot of solar light, didn't get a benefit from that because of just what I do day to day. And so take that for what it's worth. A recharge time from 0 to 100%, I tested it about 135 minutes, so in 2 hours and 15 minutes to go from 0 to full. But 16 days of full battery life, you're bound to get more than that if you have an ounce of sun, if you're out and about throughout the day, which I just unfortunately haven't been able to do. But overall, build quality, design, feel, I really liked it. The lag thing, you will notice it periodically, but it is not any kind of cumbersome thing. It is definitely different than the other Garmin watches I've tested in the fact that there's a lag sometimes in the button presses, and you'll see it sort of catch up, and then it actually stays put, it stays with you. So something about their processor they'll probably get better with over time. But overall, I think it's a great design for CrossFit and high intensity interval training. So let's get into the workout aspects. What do you see on the watch? What do you see in a workout on the watch? What are some of the fields you can change? And look at it, how it analyzes your workouts, it analyzes your output, analyzes your training load over time and your recovery time, and then come back together. Okay, so what do we see in the watch when you're actually looking at working out? So this is the CrossFit designed workout profile that I created. There's a video on how to create that. It's the same for this watch as it is for any Garmin watches. You obviously have all the other profiles that you can track and do. If you wanted to make your own multi-sport because you're going to do running and intervals on indoor rower, you can do that as well. So otherwise, you have basically just the main profile. So I copied a cardio profile, and that's what this CrossFit profile is. You have a bunch of different features you can add. So this is just, I'm going to show you some of the basic ways that I use it, but this is one of the benefits of this watch. So you have heart rate gauge up top, time of day, average heart rate, and timer. That's my basic sort of platform for hitting the workout. This is when I want to count or track my time per round. So I just added extra fields. So one of the things that's nice about this bigger watch is that you can see more data at the same time. You can see it at all the time that you're working out. So if you're tracking your current lap time versus your last lap time to see if you're on pace with what you want, then you can keep track of it because it's just visually bigger to see, even though the data fields are limited. You're fractionalizing it into 5 data fields versus 4. So there's the regular timer and the number of laps if you're counting, rounds for something. So another one, this has your load, how much load you've accumulated so far in the workout, how much, anaerobic training effect and aerobic training effect. These are all fields you can custom add that I did in that separate video. I just like sometimes having just a big old heart rate gauge, and then the watch time of day comes standard. So those are the things that it'll track. So you start this and it'll track those things. You push this bottom button down here. If you want to track your lap times, you don't have to be in this field to do that. You can do it from any of the faces. So you can change any of the settings. If you wanted to add GPS, obviously it's naturally going to be turned off, but if you did want to add GPS, you can do that. Those are the basic ways you might use this in a CrossFit training or high intensity interval training standard design. So if you wanted to look at the aspects, see there's a lag time there. It always starts when you're like starting to do something, the lag time appears. So this is just the workout from today. So you click into it. This is the basic stats you're going to see. You're going to see a summary for it. Now it'll look a little bit differently when you finish up a workout, but you can see your training effect, you know, which has your basic impact on your aerobic and anaerobic systems, as well as the load. That's the overall, you know, exertion, like how hard it was on your body for that particular workout. You see it in big bold colors there, and back to start. So you can see your laps. So I did track laps. This was DT in the middle. So I just did a bunch of warm up, and then we had like a buy-in and buy-out with DT. So that was my DT time. And then that was the finish up of the workout, and then just messing around afterwards. So you can track your time frame. You can see your heart rate, you know, the different zones you were in for different periods of time. That's all you're going to get on that one. And then you could get a summary of all the stats. So it could just go through all the aspects if you want to see it just in summary form versus in segmented form. So that's what's going to get on the watch when you see the workout. And then the other metric or aspect you would track in the workout is your training status. So your training status is going to be how much load you're putting your body under over a period of time. And also within the training status widget, you're also going to find your recovery time from the last workout to the next workout. Let me say this clearly. The training time now incorporates the body battery, which is your heart rate variability over time, so how much overall stress you're under throughout the day, coupled with your sleep. So there's nobody tying all those things together. So this says maintaining. Let me say again really clearly how you get a training status to appear, because if you're a CrossFitter and you don't run or high intensity interval and you're not using the running profile, this will say no status. You actually have to run outside with GPS using the running profile for at least 5 minutes twice, and then this will appear. It has to have some VO2 max to sort of assess or calculate. But the other things you'll see over time, you can get all these stats even if you don't have the training status. You just have to click down and, you know, and the stats are still going to be there. So you can see your load over time, so how much, you know, accumulation of load, the optimal range to continue to improve your fitness, as well as your current load total for the last 7 days. You can see the types of load, your storage, you know, so you have the anaerobic, the aerobic, and then the lowly aerobic. That always stays really low for me. But some people, maybe that works that into their workout plans. And then you have the recovery time, delayed by high stress. So I had a high stress day. This is another way you can see the benefit of it. So it was lower earlier today, but because I had a high stress day, it bumped up my recovery time needed. And you can see that it gives you sort of like an overview, a blurb about how you can make that better. So every time, depending on the intensity of the workout, the amount of load you applied to your body during the workout, it'll estimate your recovery time. Sometimes even if it's at 0 and you get like 3 hours of sleep or in super high stress, it will add 5 hours and say you need to rest before you go into workout again. So that's how you see and track your training over time in the watch itself. So let's go back and look at the app. Okay, so how does the app look? This is the main app layout, but when you're looking at it specifically to track your workout, so you do a workout and this is how the stats are going to look. I don't know why they have a landing page that just has some basic summary information, but it's always in this third tab over that you can see your heart rate. Just FYI, there used to be a fourth tab in the middle which would show your lap times, and unfortunately they took it out. Those lap times only live, I think maybe on the website version as well as on the watch itself. But you can see the heart rate over time. You can click any one of these and it'll give you a big sideways graph. You can see that in more detail. You can track your finger on it in the sideways graph. The training effect, it shows your aerobic and anaerobic, respiration rate, elevation, temperature over time, and then there's your heart rate zones. This is the updated version of the Garmin Connect app, because it used to be that this heart rate zones was microscopic. You couldn't quite see the numbers, at least in my old age, you couldn't see the numbers on but that's what it is. You can see it now. It's nice, big, and beautiful. So the training status is where your load is going to be tracked in more visual form for the app itself. So you'll see your VO2 max and you'll be able to see your load building over time. So you have your exercise loads. Now this is only since I started tracking it with the Enduro, so it's only got a couple weeks on there, but you can see each of them and how they amassed load for your overall 7-day total. The green zone just sort of shows the tracking for your optimal range for improvement. So if you want to push it up a notch, you have to apply more load, where you can either track the load that you've accumulated in a workout on the watch, or you can just push it for a longer period of time. So in Garmin's system, there is a way that you can track your load, but it only does it per watch, which I don't like. I feel like that's a little frustrating because then you don't have your total load history all in one place. You have to go per device. But most of you don't change watches as often as I do. So that's what you're going to see in tracking the overall details of your training and your training status. It just falls right on the main page there, which you can see you're improving. Your load is just summarized on the main page, and then your workouts. Now on the bottom field, you have activities, and you can just see all your activities. This is where you could go into your history and see any of the workouts that you've done recently to be able to gauge, when you pushed it, or be able to, look back on a workout and see how it was. So let's come back together and talk about the workout aspects. So what do I like most about the workout aspects of the Enduro and the Garmin platform? So a lot of this you've heard in other videos because it's a lot of the same primary information, but what's the benefit for CrossFit training? I feel like it's significant. So the fact that it's evaluating your exertion on your body from an aerobic and anaerobic standpoint, not many watches are looking at it in both of those types of areas. The fact that it's evaluating the amount of load you're carrying over a period of time, both on the anaerobic, the highly aerobic, and the lowly aerobic. No other watches are looking at it in that sort of spliced of an approach. So you can see your exertion from the workout today. You can see it broken down into primary categories. You can see your heart rate zones, obviously. You can see your heart rate, map over time. Let me take a brief second to say, please always wear a chest strap if you're doing CrossFit or high intensity interval training. This optical heart rate sensor for doing CrossFit, I've done a whole video analyzing it because it's the same Elevate 2.0 heart rate. It's still coming in about 80% accurate, and sometimes some days it was like 60%. The average was 80%, but it is not accurate for the peak zones, which assesses the highest level of exertion on your body. So you want to have a chest strap or at least an armband, tie it to something that can track your heart rate somewhere else. So it tracks all of those primary things, heart rate zones, and then the exertion scores, and then it calculates your load, and that flows into looking at your load over time to see if you're pushing your body or if you're slowly peaking, your load is maintaining too low of a level. You want to push it up, so you got to increase the intensity or increase the time of the workouts. So it evaluates all those things. You can see it all on the watch after the workout. You can see it all on the watch later in the day. You can see it on the app itself. And then alongside that is the recovery time feature. And I can't say enough about this because there are devices, so Suunto 7 uses recovery time, which is the first speed analytics. They call it resources, but it's just sort of the resource is the heart rate variability tracking, which compares to a different metric. So recovery time, I think, is just an estimate Suunto makes. Coros makes an estimate for recovery time. Polar does not have recovery time built in. But what Garmin does for recovery time is it takes the intensity of that workout and two of the other wellness aspects we're going to talk about in a second, and it looks at the three metrics together to see if you need to recover for a longer period of time. So it takes into account your stress throughout the day, the quality of your sleep, and the intensity of that one workout to give you an evaluation for how much recovery time you need to make before you hit the next big workout. So those are super useful, and they're continually developing this. So the level of evaluation for the exertion and the way it puts together the stats on the app and the load over time and the recovery time makes this a super functional device for CrossFit training. Not just because it's an ultra marathon watch. Hey, we can just appreciate the lightweight nature of it and the battery life, but still those metrics are super useful. And then obviously when you see it on the watch, the number of data fields, and because it's a 1.4-inch screen, you can see just more information bigger. So you can more quickly. So if you're in a strained workout and you're on like round 4 of 5 like I was with DT today, and you just think if you're trying to track a certain pace in that round, you want to be able to look down and just quickly see the stat and not have to turn your brain on because you're at a high level of exhaustion and you feel like you want to quit or die. So it's super useful to have the big face to be able to do that. So I've gotten accustomed to that. I really like the large face, and I feel like the stats in the watch during the workout are useful, as well as obviously all of the analysis afterwards. So let's look at some of the health and wellness features and then come back together for a summary. Okay, so if you're looking at the health and wellness side, so there's just a couple basic things I would point out. So one is the sleep metric. So you only get a sleep score in the watch itself currently. I hope Garmin updates that, but only in the Enduro and the Phoenix 6 models will you actually have this advanced sleep tracking. It's supposed to come to the 945, the 745, and the 245, but right now it only lives in Enduro and Phoenix 6 world. So you'll see your summary. This has actually been super useful and more spot on. So it's been said in the past Garmin sleep tracking was inaccurate. They're now using first beat analytics. So this is a super helpful evaluation of how your sleep was for the night. And it actually has been really spot on. If I got a bad night of sleep, it's going to give me a low score. It is not pulling any punches there. The other way you can track your overall health and your wellness or your recovery is the body battery. So you can see right here, there was just a high level of stress or up close to 100% earlier in the day. I don't know what happened in the middle there, pocket of time that didn't track, but you can see that it builds while you sleep. So this is the last 12 hours or since midnight actually. So you can see it builds to your sleep and it goes down over time. So, you obviously can track your overall internal reserves based on the body battery. This is a stat that will show you if you're about to get sick. If you have a sickness, it will not, your body battery just won't start regenerating because your body's under stress. You just don't know it, and then it'll stay sort of flat, and then you'll know when you're going to start to get better because it starts to regenerate because your body's not under significant duress. The body battery has been super helpful for wellness. The other thing that you can use for wellness that I don't do a very good job of is hydration tracking. So it's not going to, it doesn't have any data, but you can add cups of water throughout the day. So you can just add 2 cups and then you now are tracking your hydration, but it's actually somewhat worthwhile if you're looking at overall health. If you are into, tracking overall, stats for the day, I actually took it off. So the weather, not the weather, but the steps you take per day, that you can obviously track that. Health stats doesn't have that, just has the stress and body battery. So there's a way you can look at steps and stairs that you've tracked throughout the day. There's a My Day summary widget that you can add in here, which I obviously took out. But those are the main things for health and wellness. Let's look at the app and how the functions look on that. Okay, so let's talk about the wellness aspects now. So you'll see at the top here, and this is, you can arrange what goes in what order, so whatever information, data is useful for you. So I put the sleep and then the body battery. Those are the 2 main wellness things because they do really tie into recovery. The body battery is an evaluation of your total day. Everything, whether you got good sleep, if your internal resources revived, or whether you had a stressful day and they depleted. So you can see this over time, and it shows you that as I slept, I went back up to 75%. I only got about 6 hours of sleep, so it didn't quite regenerate all the way. And then you can see your stress throughout the day. That's super useful. It actually helps because now I can see I'm at 15%, and that actually is probably, you can flip back in other days. You can see in this day, I was at a higher peak, but the day itself wore me down to a little bit lower, but only hit 25%. If you have, I don't know what happened here, just a terrible night's sleep. If you did get bad sleep or you were under high stress while you're asleep, it will not regenerate. So it shows when you actually need to take more of a break. So overall, the body battery is super, super helpful and useful. The sleep aspects are the same aspects you would see on any Garmin experience, except for this now has the first beat analytics for what stages of sleep you're in at different periods of time. You can track your pulse ox over time. That's what I obviously have done. I don't find the pulse ox during sleep to be quite accurate, but it does give you a relative benchmark or a reference point. So you can flip to another day and see your pulse ox on another day. It also tracks your respiration. Again, I wish they would sort of comprise all these in one main stat or alongside the sleep score aspect. But overall, you can see if your body's under higher stress with your respiration, if you're not having as much oxygen intake with pulse ox, and then your overall stages of sleep. Obviously, you can track your steps. I think they're down here somewhere. I just pushed them all down. Steps, floors, calories. You can track all of the aspects of other primary health metrics. But for me, it's working out and recovering with sleep and body battery. So let's come back together and talk about everything in summary. So what are the health and wellness features that are super beneficial? As we talked about and we looked at it, the body battery and the sleep aspects. Because this has the higher quality sleep analytics, I no longer feel like I have to wonder about Garmin sleep analytics. I really trusted Polar sleep analytics, and they're one of the primary ones that provides good sleep. Chorus and Suunto haven't yet quite mastered sleep, and at least not in a visual format. But The sleep aspects here are super high quality. When I've had a bad night's sleep, I didn't get enough sleep, or I ate a bunch of greasy food before bed, it'll tell me that I didn't get a good night's sleep that night. The body battery is unlike anything I've seen. The fact that it's tracking your heart variability over time. Suunto actually uses the same first beat analytics for body battery, and they call it resources, but overall, Garmin's still got the master control on the quality of output, visibility, and being able to tap into that data on your watch or on the app itself throughout the day. So the stress of the day, as well as the quality of the sleep, and then obviously the intensity of the workout, helps you have a fine-tuned idea over how your body's doing and where you're at in the spectrum of being able to hit the next big workout, or whether you need to take a little more time off and do some sort of light, body movement type workouts just to give yourself a little bit of a break before you go in hard the next time. So lots of great wellness aspects. And in summary, when I look at all the different things, I think the Enduro is an excellent watch for CrossFit training, except for the price. I mean, I do think that the price tag of $799 for the stainless steel model or $899 for the titanium model is a high price to pay, but I do feel like Garmin and the Garmin family and the app itself has all of the main things you could need to be able to use it as a smartwatch, to be able to functionally see all the primary data pieces, to feel like it's not too heavy, to feel like it's not too cumbersome, but it's a big, pretty screen, big, pretty clear dial. The strap is nice and comfortable. Everything sort of functionally works. Even though it's really large, it's still got a lightweight body. It has more battery life than anybody on the planet right now, and it'll track the intensity and in-depth aspects and analytics of your workouts and your load over time and the recovery time needed, alongside wellness aspects like body battery and sleep, and it gives you all of those things all in one device. I feel like it is a total package. Now, that's not to say that the Fenix 6 isn't a total package, because it is a total package. If I was going to compare this to the Fenix 6, I personally would go with the Fenix 6 because you also have maps. Now, I don't need 16 hours between when I charge. The Fenix 6X Titanium has the same big, beautiful screen, and you can get a solar variant, and that'll get 21 days of smartwatch mode and 24 days. So this, if you compare it, so 21 days with the Fenix 6X Titanium regular versus 50 days with no solar of any kind on the Enduro, or 24 days with solar on the 6X Titanium, or 65 days on the Enduro, I don't need that much time. So I would rather give up the time because I wouldn't mind having the maps. So the mapping features, so those are the primary differences. No maps, no music, no Wi-Fi. So that's what you're not going to get when you compare it to the Fenix 6 variants. Even the 6 regular or the 6 solar, not the 6X or the 6S, all of those have maps built in, Wi-Fi and music, unless you go with sort of the ultra base model, which I wouldn't, it's not worth it to miss the maps, because the maps is a great feature. So loved Enduro, definitely great for CrossFit training because of all the analytics and just all the features we talked about. I would probably lean towards the Fenix 6 line, and I would probably look towards a titanium version of one of those 6 line watches, because of the lightweight would make a big difference, because the 6 will feel a little bit heavier, even though it's, even if you buy a less bulky model of the 6. So with that, that is the Garmin Enduro. Fit Gear Hunter, thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned because I'm super excited about the Whoop versus the Open series I'm going to do to test the Whoop device against Garmin, or compare it alongside Garmin and Polar against the Open workout. Thanks for watching.